But I want to welcome everybody to the Tailored Talk podcast. This is the intro. This has been a long time coming, so I'm glad to finally launch tonight and glad to have you all here. So if y'all see me looking to the left and right, it's because I got screens. I'm monitoring the stream. And also I would like to apologize for the technical snafu I had last week. Literally right before I went live, my internet went out. So I had to get that situated. But I understand the importance of showing up for everybody, and I did not do that for y'all. So for that, I apologize, and I promise you that will not happen again without at least some kind of advance notice. My name is Collin Hardeman, and I serve as the founder and executive director of Amazing Media. Amazing Media is a digital media agency that specializes in AV production, creative services, which includes photography, video editing, content creation, live streaming, event management, and advertising and marketing services. These are just some of the few things we offer as far as creative services. Our services includes films. We also do documentaries, live conferences, interviews, events, whether they're in person or hybrid. We do weddings. We do commercials. We do promotional content and promotional materials. We do digital marketing. We do virtual events, and we do podcasts. So of course, Amazing Media is the AV production company for the Tailored Talk podcast. But everything you see on a visual standpoint, as far as the production, the graphics, that is all run by my company. So once again, my name is Collin Hardeman, and I am the executive director and founder of Amazing Media. And I just want to go really briefly into my journey as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for approximately 13, 14 years. It'll be 14 years on July 21st. But my journey of entrepreneurship has been a roller coaster of sorts. Entrepreneurship can be very daunting, interesting and exciting, all those at the same time. But mine was a long track, basically, because I do not come from a family of entrepreneurs, but I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, always had that entrepreneurial drive. I always wanted, even not knowing back then that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I had the fire and desire within me because I always just rebelled against going to school or doing, the traditional things or going the traditional route of things. So 2009 and 2010, it was me figuring a lot of things out. So, I've never been on this pursuit of entrepreneurship before, but I always had a knack for video cameras and photography. So I would just take cameras and just go film any and everything, not necessarily have an agenda, no kind of assignment or anything like that. I would literally just go film any and everything that I could put my bag, basically film and shoot. But essentially, I went through a lot of trial and error. That was my freelance year. 2011, 2012 was me starting to basically put the pieces of the puzzle together. Everything started to make a little bit of sense. All the trial and error of the first 2 years, I learned from those mistakes, and basically I start putting those into play. I start basically coming up with my own streamlined system. So basically I start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It started making sense for me. And in 2013, 2014, which was my year 5 and year 6, things really start taking off because I had found my footing, I had found my grounding. I basically had tapped into a customer niche. I had a customer base. I started getting a lot of requests for work. So basically I was making a name for myself. Amazing Entertainment Productions, which it was then called, was becoming somewhat of a household name. I was getting referrals because people loved the work that was being done by Amazing Entertainment Productions. 2013 was also the year that I started doing internships. So I started getting into relationships and partnerships with area colleges and universities, and basically start recruiting RTF majors. So that's radio, television, film. Year 5 and 6 is when things started making sense. I was rolling. I was deep, heavy in projects. I had interns. It stopped being a me thing and it started becoming a we thing. So really that's when Amazing Entertainment Productions started becoming a company or organization. Okay, moving on. So 2015, 2016. So if y'all see me keep looking over to the left, I'm reading my outline just to make sure I stay on task here and don't ramble, because I can ramble. But 2015, 2016, which was my year 7 and 8, that's when my business starts receiving recognition. So I start receiving community awards, being recognized for outstanding customer service. I start winning awards. My company actually won first place in the music video category for a local film festival. And then also that's when I start gaining mentors. So by being allowed access into all these events, by acquiring all these clients, friendships start forming from these. And some of those friends turned into my mentors because they were running businesses on a much larger scale than I did. So I was basically tapping into them every now and then for guidance. Whenever I was unsure of the path I was going down, I would basically tap them for a resource, and they would kind of prod me or steer me in the right way. Even though some of them weren't necessarily in the same industry, they still provided me guidance and resources as far as like directing me the right path as far as like where I should go. In 2017, 2018 is actually when I start pursuing a new endeavor. I got into a partnership. More importantly, something else started happening in this year of 2017, 2018. And what happened was the excitement, the joy that I was finding when things start clicking for my business, I noticed it start to wane. What was happening was I was essentially starting to hit what I call an invisible cap as far as like my growth. Because essentially what I was doing, even though everything was making sense and I was streamlining my own process and things like that, what I did not do, or what I failed to do, was build my foundation. That foundation was made up of structure, it was made up of processes, it was made up of critical systems. So that's why I was starting to hit a cap, because there was no growth that was happening, because there was not enough consistent work coming in to keep growing. So recognizing this, I tapped into my mentors once again and let them know the issues that I was facing, and they pretty much confirmed what I just stated. So what I had to do was basically go back to the drawing board, not start from scratch, because once again, I'm now 8-9 years into my business. But what I had to do was basically rewrite my mission statement. I had to rewrite what it is I wanted for my business. I had to rewrite my goals. I had to reset my objectives. So 2020, I remember writing my vision board and just start restructuring my business to go for those things that I needed, which was that structure, which was that foundation. So unbeknownst to me, everything that I was praying for and everything that I was planning for came in the unlikeliest of packages. And y'all can probably guess what that is. This is 2020, so that was COVID. So while there were still great achievements and milestones being made, because in 2020, early 2020, my company actually got approved to cover CES. If y'all don't know what CES is, that's the world's largest consumer electronics show. So basically, I start making plans to take over the rest of 2020. When I say take over, I meant be intentional, like going after a specific client, like researching, like really going over my brand of who my brand is, who my brand serves, who is our ideal customer, what is our ideal price range. So basically I went to work with that. And then South by Southwest came, and then COVID came right on the heels of South by Southwest. So that year in 2020, South by Southwest was canceled. We lost 5 contracts with the cancellation of that event. So that was a big blow to my sales, because at the time I had 2 interns, and when they canceled South by Southwest and the rest of all the big events for the rest of 2020, one by one clients were calling in and canceling contracts. Also, my interns were going to local colleges and universities, and their classes were canceled. So I had to make a decision. On one side, I had canceled contracts, no work essentially coming in, and then on the other side, I had interns who had their classes canceled for the rest of the semester, and I had to make a critical decision of whether if I would continue the internship. And welcome, Misha, by the way. Welcome all the viewers, by the way. If I did not acknowledge y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Got off to a rough start, but I'm trying to power through it right now. So, I'm already trying to just make up for lost time. But essentially, I had to make an executive decision because I had 2 interns at the time. So I had to make a decision of whether to cancel the internship or whether to keep going. And if I kept going, what that would look like. So ultimately, I decided not to just leave my interns out in the cold because once again, their classes were already canceled. So I didn't want to cancel the internship because they were looking to get trained in the world of video production in the entertainment industry. So I decided to continue on the internship, but virtually. But at this time, this was the first time in my company's 10-year history that I was questioning if we would survive. All of the bumps, headaches, trials, tribulations I faced early on while starting my business, those paled in comparison to all of the things I was going through when COVID hit, because business operations literally ceased. There was literally no work coming in. And as I stated, I was devastated losing 5 contracts. That's a big chunk of income gone. But essentially the blessing that I was looking for came in the most unlikeliest of packages, and that was COVID. Because essentially what happened was when work ceased, I started looking at some different solutions as far as like what to provide. I started looking to see what everybody needed in that time of COVID because everyone was pretty much locked down. So obviously everybody was gonna be online. If everybody's gonna be at home, everybody's gonna be on their computer. So then I start looking at different platforms as far as like virtual offerings outside of Zoom because everybody and their mom was pretty much doing Zoom and everybody had Zoom fatigue, including me. So I start looking at platforms that had more features that mimic real life conferences. And I settled on this one platform called Hop, and I'm not gonna go deep into that because there's a whole video on that whole story. So I'm not gonna go into that. But essentially, I had settled on a platform. I thought it was really unique as far as like its offerings. It basically mimicked real life in-person conferences and events, but in a virtual space. But basically, I took myself and my interns through training on that platform. I literally called them up one day. I was just like, hey, everything, the curriculum I gave y'all to work on, scratch that, we're gonna stop working on that. We're gonna focus 100% on this platform. And essentially it took us a month to learn the ins and outs of that platform. I mean, we was training anywhere from 4 to 8 hours on this platform. But while training on that, we basically solved another problem. We said, okay, if it took us this long and we're very tech savvy to learn this one platform, it's gonna take your average Joe or the general public much longer to do that. So one, they're not gonna have the time and commitment to do and dedicate towards training on that platform. 2, they're not gonna have the bandwidth or team to, basically assign to train on that platform. 3, they need to get their product, service, and message out to the masses right now. So that's when the light bulb went off in my head and I was just like, okay, well, let's just offer them a service where we just do everything for them. We already know how to do this platform. We've already learned this platform. We'll just do it for them. And thus a new service in my company was born. It was an event management service where we basically created, managed, and produced virtual events for our clients. That was my business's pivot during COVID, and not only was it my company's saving grace, it was also my company's thriving grace, because everything that I had rewritten, my mission, rewriting my goals, everything I was praying for as far as like that structure, that restructuring, that foundation that I knew I needed to break through that ceiling, it had came in the form of COVID and me pivoting into a new space. And I can tell you right now, I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that wave of work because essentially we was answering a huge need because everybody, all these big companies were panicking in a sense. They were wondering how they were gonna get their event across, how they were gonna still hold their event with everything being shut down. So then they start looking at online solutions and they saw my marketing material saying, hey, we actually can run your event for you. So with me and 2 interns, a total of 3 of us at that time, we could not meet the needs of the demand. It was literally a wall of demand. So I quickly had to hire more people. I quickly had to get systems in place. I had to streamline my processes. I had to purchase much needed systems. I hired contractors. I hired an accountant. I hired a bookkeeper. I rebranded. I LLC'd my company. I restructured the whole business from top to bottom, changed the name over from Amazing Entertainment Productions to what it is today, Amazing Media LLC, and basically was able to scale not even gradually, but exponentially, because I was able to pivot quickly at a time where the market really needed those new services. But essentially, that's what happened. That was the thing that helped me break through that invisible ceiling. I had finally gotten what I needed, and because I wasn't prepared, I was forced to scale and get those systems in place while going through the pivot. So it was a good problem to have, but I wasn't prepared, like I said. So there's a lesson in that will come out later on in this season 1 of Tailored Talk. It's, like I said, it's gonna come out through through the different episodes. So I'll get into that at a later time. So entrepreneurship, what is a ship? So a ship is a vessel. It's a vessel that transports you from point A to point B. So I'm gonna share this post with you that I wrote. This is July of 2020. I wrote this on Facebook, and I called it, "What is entrepreneurship to me?" So if you can envision this, you're safe on an island, and as you look out into the vast ocean, you daydream of what's out there, the possibilities. You've been on the island your entire life. You've explored every inch of it, so it no longer fulfills you. It's become routine. So then you start to dream of building a wooden raft, what it looks like, how big it is, how it can stand up to the tide, etc. You start constructing it. After it's finished, you test it out in the shallow waters where you discover it has some flaws. So those flaws could be leaks, it's too heavy, it's unstable, and so you bring it back to the island to improve upon those design flaws. You repeat these steps in multiple intervals as time passes on. However, with each passing test in the water, you're moving further and further out into the deeper waters because your improvement can stand the slight obstacles in the shallow waters. So you finally pitch your sail, and now you're way out there. You're way out there in the deep, choppy waters where the sharks, whales, hurricanes, pirates. So you batten down the hatches to ride out the storm. Your momentum and stick-to-itiveness has gotten you through, and now you think about taking your beaten down raft back to the island for more repairs. But as you look back, the island is no longer in sight. What you didn't realize is the momentum has taken you far away from your safety net, which was the island. You're now surrounded by water. There's no going back. It's the most unnerving, unsettling, anxious feeling, but little did you know that all the tests you conducted in the shallow waters and going back to the drawing board again and again and again has prepared you for this moment. So you set your sights and your course forward to continue navigating uncharted waters while growing even more along the way. And then there's a quote. It says, "Building the life that you want requires a backbone and strength of character. You will be ridiculed, challenged, even sabotaged by people you love and care about. Once you start, you can't turn back, and your life will never be the same again, whether you achieve what you want or don't." That's by Lebo Lyon. That's what entrepreneurship is, in summary. So that vessel, that ship in entrepreneurship is that vessel, it's that raft that will get you away from your 9 to 5, whatever it is that you innately want to do. That vessel is what prepares you and transports you to where you want to go. That's what entrepreneurship is to me, and you have to define what entrepreneurship means to you, because it is your passion, it is whatever that fire that's inside of you, that's what's gonna dictate what it is that you wanna do. And we're gonna discover that actually in the first episode. So the Taylor Talk podcast, this podcast teaches the fundamentals of entrepreneurship and gives aspiring entrepreneurs a step-by-step guide to starting, maintaining, growing, and scaling a business from year one to beyond. So you'll join me as I share my experience of entrepreneurship. Once again, the full in-depth story of how I was able to scale my business to 6 figures, especially during one of the roughest times in human history, which was COVID. That will all come out with each episode, because each episode is pretty much a building block to your business. It's basically giving you a guide, a step-by-step guide to showing you how to start, grow, and scale your business the proper way. It doesn't take 10 years to do this, but so we're basically gonna help teach you to build that foundation and build those incremental things to set your business up for success. But you'll join me as I share my experience of entrepreneurship, and I'm gonna speak with fellow business owners. I'm gonna have them on as guests, and they're gonna share how they started and scaled their businesses as well. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a recent graduate, or someone looking to part ways with a 9-to-5, we have topics tailored for everyone looking to start a business in today's world. And I'm gonna tell you really quick how this podcast came to be. I was part of another podcast called Ask a Black Man Anything. It was made up of me and 7 other gentlemen, where you could literally ask a black man anything. Majority of our talks were geared and centered around relationships. But one day I had the idea, I was just like, we keep talking about relationships. I was like, between the 7 of us, we all run our own respective businesses. So let's help our viewers out, let's help the community out, and do segments where we talk about business or ways to start a business. So they thought it was a great idea, and it was just like, well, since it was your idea, you go ahead and lead the charge. You go ahead and do the presentation. So that's exactly what I did. I actually did a presentation on that podcast called The Basics to Starting a Business. And to me, it wasn't a big deal, because it really was the basics, the bare basics to start a business. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, everybody already knows this stuff, but whatever, I'll just, just in case, I'll just still present it like, here's the starter kit to starting your business. But what I found out when I did that segment, I was seeing the live comments of people not knowing those things, like, oh my God, I had no idea you need to do this. And even after the show ended, it was still comments coming in that people were posting. It was like, wow, this is really helpful information. I had no idea you needed this stuff. I've been in business for 3-4 years and didn't know this stuff. Just seeing that outpour, that feedback, I thought maybe they already knew this stuff, but they didn't. That was one thing. Then the other thing was, I'm in a lot of business rooms on Clubhouse. So when I'm in those business rooms, I'm sharing the stage with prominent speakers, and they're all in this business room. So once again, I heard and I saw the feedback. So I saw people's comments. I heard what people were saying when they came on stage. And the main thing people were saying was, I heard you just say, I need to get a LLC first. I was in a business room 3 days ago, and another person said, no, like, you need to get your DUNS number first. Or this person said you need to get your operating agreement first, or get your EIN number first. You need to get your bank account. So it's like they were basically or essentially confused, because they're getting all of this correct information, but it's not in any kind of order. It's just all over the place. So everyone seems daunted and overwhelmed, because they don't necessarily know where to start, because they're getting so much cross information. The third thing is, when I went to South by Southwest this year, there's a group that's really popular on social media. Y'all might have heard of them, but they're called the School of Hard Knocks. They just asked me to give a little snippet of advice to the next generation of entrepreneurs. They took a little 45-second snippet and posted it on their channel, and it went viral. I mean, it hit 200,000, maybe 215,000 on their Instagram. It hit 280,000 on their TikTok. It went viral on Facebook. So that was another wow moment for me. So that just let me know people want this information. Because also with COVID brought a shift. That shift is what I like to call the Great Awakening. It was a lot of greats. In summary, it's the Great Awakening, because the Great Migration happening, it's the Great Resignation that's happening. People are waking up and realizing their power. A lot of people have resigned from their jobs or walked away from their jobs because they've seen the value of themselves, or they see the value in themselves. employers aren't paying them enough, and it's just like, well, I can do this, but better, and then they'll start their own venture, and they're getting paid 3 times, 4 times more working for themselves or starting their own businesses. So this is the best time. There's a lot of resources out there, and contrary to popular belief, the government does love small business owners and entrepreneurs, because small businesses are the backbone to the American economy. So essentially, basically, those 4 things is what prompted me to start this podcast. It's essentially me hearing the problem from the podcast, from the basics of starting a business, hearing people not knowing the most basic things, to people complain about not knowing where to start because they're getting all this cross information, the video going viral. So it's just like, okay, I didn't have that myself. As far as like, I didn't have guidance. Nobody didn't give me a step-by-step. It was a lot of bump in my head, a lot of trial and error the first 2, 3, 4 years before it started, making sense. But even then, like I said, I started without building a foundation, so I ended up hitting a cap. I knew how much easier it was when I had mentors guiding me. So if I create a podcast, I take all this information and then I create a path, or I go through it and sort it and create the most logical step-by-step process for people to scale and grow their business. I think people would like that. I went to work in late January, as far as I start writing up the description, I start writing out the outline to this podcast, what it looked like, what it was gonna talk about, who it was gonna feature. Like, every intricate detail was taken into consideration. But long story short, the podcast was created. We launched tonight. Not smoothly, but we live and we learn. But basically, the podcast was born. Even that right there, that is entrepreneurship. It's just seeing that there's a need, researching to see if somebody else is doing it, and even if they're doing it, seeing if you got the talent and skill to do it better, there's a community right there that might need that information, that might need that product, that might need that service, that might need that message. So that's why this podcast was created. I want this to be a step-by-step guide. We want to be able to provide resources, advice, and guidance to you all to make sure you set up your business the correct way to set you up for success. Over the years, as I stated, while building my business and doing business with so many awesome clients that are running their own big businesses, friendships were formed, and thus I created a great network of entrepreneurs, powerful entrepreneurs. So I've never really tapped into them for anything, but this was the perfect time for me. I was just like, okay, I can now tap into my network for some help, because I don't want to just be giving them my own advice, but I want different dynamics. I want different perspectives, different people from different industries to all input and lay out this roadmap. And speaking of the speakers, these are great people that are killing it in their industries, everybody. I implore you all to bring a pen and a notepad for each episode, because they're going to be dropping some serious gems. Everything that's going to be discussed, you need to write down. It's not enough to just watch it or go back and rewatch it, but in the moment, write down this stuff and write down all the advice and tips we're giving you. So you can actually formulate questions from that also, and then you can put your questions in the chat and we can respond to those. Yeah, so the format of the show, we're gonna air a new episode every first and third Tuesday of every single month. And the reason I'm spacing it out 2 weeks is because we're not just gonna be feeding you information. We really want you to apply what we're telling you and what we're teaching you, because we're gonna give you homework. So when we give you this homework, when the episode ends, you need to be putting these things in place. So if you gotta go open a business account, if you gotta go get your EIN number, you need to go be doing these things. So I don't wanna hit you with a new episode every single week and just stack on top of your assignment, stack. I want there to be a little bit of a buffer for you to go get those things done. So by the time the next episode drops, you're ready for the next coursework. You're ready for the next assignment. Also, I do understand the YouTube algorithm, and speaking of the algorithm, if y'all would please like this video and every single episode, either like or dislike, I don't care. The thing is, we want engagement. YouTube's algorithm picks up based on engagement, so not only views, but when y'all react to the video. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. But I've created a checklist that's gonna show the intangible and tangible things that we're gonna discuss in each one of these episodes. Every single episode we go over, this is for you to take notes and list those intangible and tangible things that we discuss so you can get those things accomplished. The other thing is, here's the process map. So with each episode, this is for you to write down each process. So there's gonna basically be a track from start all the way to finish. So by the time season 1 wraps up, you're gonna be ready for year 5 and beyond in your business, because you're gonna have everything set up both intangibly and tangibly. Everything is in the description of every single podcast. All the information you need to know is in here, so please read all of the information in here. How you access the materials I just showed you is here. It's under downloadable materials. I've created a PowerPoint. There's a PDF and a PowerPoint version of each one, because if it's formatted incorrectly, then you can just open your own PowerPoint and reformat it if you need to. But our Facebook group, our social medias, everywhere you can support, if you would like to contact me, all that information, everything you're gonna need to know about our speakers is gonna be in the description. So make sure you all read the description in each episode. It's gonna be updated. Every time I announce a new speaker, or every time there's a new episode that's gonna be posted 4 or 5 days, preferably a week before the episode airs, this is what the graphic will look like. On the top left side, you see where it says tangible. So that's just an indicator to you to let you know that this particular subject or this particular episode is gonna go into the tangible things. This is the episode, so this is gonna be episode 1. That's gonna be the title of the episode, and then whoever that guest speaker is, they will be listed here. Top right where it says year 0, like as each episode goes on, ideally the thing that we're gonna be talking about in that episode is pretty much ideally where you want to be in the years in your business. And that's also gonna act as a guide as well. So if you're doing stuff in year 4, but you haven't done the things in year 1, then that's an indicator to you that you're putting the cart before the horse. Like you might want to backtrack and go get those other things before you get up to this point. So that's what that is. So with each graphic that I'll release with each episode, you're gonna see those little indicators. Once again, the episodes are going to launch the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of each month. So the first episode, episode 1, the official episode of Tailored Talks, will air next Tuesday. So that's July 18th at 7:30 p.m. And I'm not gonna say her name, but you will want to come and listen to this next speaker. I actually met her at the Texas Black Expo here in Houston, which was about 2 months ago. And this lady literally shut the stage down. They were talking about branding, and she shared the stage with 2 other prominent speakers, but she literally took over the stage because she was offering so many tips and dropping so many gems. She really just captivated the audience, and she captivated me as well. But in a 5-minute span, she showed people how to start, like basically write their own masterclasses, 4 masterclasses. So afterwards, I made my way up to her. She had a whole crowd around her, so I patiently waited until the crowd dispersed. Then I approached her and I was just like, hey, everything you're talking about, or everything you talked about on the stage, is literally my episode 1. I would love to have you on my podcast. And she agreed. So I'm glad for her to lend her talent and her time, because she is a mogul and she is killing it out there. But I appreciate her lending her time and her talent to share her advice with you all. So you do not want to miss episode 1. We're starting this thing off with a bang. We ain't gonna gradually ease up into it. We're gonna hit you with some fire, episode 1. So she'll be announced in the next couple of days, but that episode is gonna launch next Tuesday. So next week, July 18th at 7:30 p.m. So in between, I understand the importance of constantly putting content out. So I've actually created another segment of this podcast that I'm going to call Tailored Tips. That will be every other Tuesday. So the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every single month is an episode. In between, so the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month, I'm gonna release a tailored tip. So tailored tip is basically going to be more smaller, intimate discussions. Like these are going to be 15-minute discussions with professionals either in the healthcare field. We're going to talk about everything from mental health to featuring or spotlighting other entrepreneurs that are doing great things in the community. And then also, those of you who do not know me, I dress up pretty nice. I like to wear suits. I'm not wearing one tonight because it's not an official episode, but I like to wear hats and I like to wear suits. So I'll be putting together some great outfits. So Tailored Tips is also going to feature me giving the guys. The tailored tips are for everybody, but specifically this tailored tip, as far as like when I talk about suits, that's gonna go into, the importance of why, guys or men should have at least one suit in their closet. So I'm basically gonna use that time to show you how I put together some of my pieces, how I put together some of my outfits. But that's what Tailored Tips is gonna consist of. There's really not going to be a riddle or rhyme to that. It's just going to be, like I said, it could be an intimate discussion. It could be featuring an entrepreneur, or it could be just me giving tips on some wardrobe, putting together some outfits. But every single episode is going to feature a dynamic speaker. So make sure y'all tune in every single episode. And then also help me get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. As y'all know, YouTube allows you to unlock more features when you hit 1,000 subs. So I really want to grow this channel to 1,000 subs before season 1 is over. And I believe we can definitely get there with the time frame we're working with. So if you would please share with your friends, share with your family. And like I said, like the content, if you like the information, that if it's helpful, definitely subscribe to the channel. This is my first podcast. Yeah, it was a little hiccups tonight, but like I said, that will gradually improve. We're gonna get better as time goes along. But please help us get to 1,000 subs. That's really the support we're looking for. If you wanna donate to the podcast as well, help us grow. We do take donations as well. Once again, that is in the description. This is a clip with Gary V.
How old are you?
44.
I'm 40. Do you know how young we feel? When you were 26, did you ever think that this is what 44 felt like?
No.
You thought that was finished?
Yeah.
How old are you? Like, you think a 40-year-old, like when I was 25 years old, I thought a 40-year-old was finished.
Fair use.
I don't even feel like I'm starting. I want my legend to grow. I'm always fascinated by politicians and world figures. Like Winston Churchill, his brain continues to grow, right? I want that. When I'm dead, I want to be in the ground at peace knowing my legend's growing. Like I want that. I want that in the business world. And so I'm giving real advice, and real advice looks like this. When you're 19 and you can spend 7 full years learning your craft, meeting people that are mentors, being patient, and you wake up and you're 26 years old, you have your entire life in front of you, and you've done great foundational work to go on and then be successful.
I wanted to share that video clip because I find it ironic he said 7 years, because during that period of before I started my business to the first 5 years, I actually took 7 years of just focusing on starting my business. And I just focused hardcore. I didn't focus on anything else. I wasn't worried about relationships. I wasn't worried about going out with friends. I was just heads down, focused on starting a business. And once again, when I explained that timeline, that's when my business took off, when things finally start making sense, because I concentrated for 7 years. So when I saw that clip by Gary Vee, that really resonated with me. There really is no age limit to entrepreneurship. You can start at any age. Like you said, you think 44 is old, or 50 is old, 60 is old. But it's just like, no, whenever you start being an entrepreneur, when things start making sense, it could start at any age. You could be in your 20s, you can be in your 30s, you can be in your 40s. There's no limit to this. So the last thing I will say is this. I'm gonna share this statistic with y'all. So according to the Small Business Administration, about 20% of small businesses fail within the first year. 30% fail within the second year, and 50% fail after 5 years in business. It says, however, it's worth noting that the failure rate can vary depending on the industry, location, and other factors. So, the tips, advice, and resources we will provide on this podcast will ensure that you are not in that statistic. Once again, we're going to give you those tools for you to succeed. So hopefully you'll be out there taking notes. It's very highly encouraged. But until next time,